I would argue that the moment they sign the certificate of
Expressed, oo.
candidacy, they're already campaigning. The time that we are not counting their expenditure when we already know that they are going to run for a
Post,
specific
oo.
post, hindi natin binibilang yun. That's a big chunk of it. For
'Di
me,
ba?
yun talaga, I strongly believe that the moment they submit their certificate of candidacy, we start counting expenditure. All right, welcome back to In Full Context and Happy New Year, everyone. I know it's a bit late, but we just came back from our New Year break. And of course, now there is a lot to talk about. We have finished talking about the presidential candidates, economic platforms, except for Bongbong Marcos's because he did not participate in the forum that we have used for our research.
Ang hilig ni Bongbong di magsasalita kung saan-saan, 'no?
Oo nga, no? Parang naging ugali niya na.
Pati yung
Ah,
yung COMELEC hearing ata nila hindi rin siya umattend, eh.
yeah, may naging
Kasi
issue pa
may
yun.
contact tracing daw siya or something.
Naging issue
MIA
pa
si
yun.
kuya, parang hindi magandang sign yan, ah.
So yun, we're done taking a look at their economic platforms, and as promised, if ever that Bongbong Marcos will release his economic platform, we would also put that under the same microscope that we put the other candidates' platform under. And now we will talk about the campaign. So I know na it's not yet officially the campaign period, but we are already in the pre-campaign period. And I'm sure if you don't have YouTube Premium or if you've been browsing Facebook a lot, you have seen a lot of ads, a lot of stunts from different candidates
Candidates,
already.
yeah.
And those are some of the things that we will be talking about today. So, yun, we'll talk about the strategies, we'll talk about the recent big events, I would say, that can affect.
Kumbaga recap ng mga few weeks that we've seen, and then
Yeah.
let's share our thoughts on it. And also, we came across a video,
Mhm.
actually just released a few hours ago, so this is really fresh. There's an interview, ANC, with the COMELEC commissioner. So what the idea is, supposedly this video is outlining the rules ng mga kandidato to follow in the upcoming official campaign period. So the intent is obviously we lay out the rules, and then on the next few weeks and months we'll see how obedient or how lax the candidates are, and also commissioner in enforcing their
Mhm.
rules. Kasi
The
obviously
rules.
ang daming doubt sa COMELEC. Alam mo na, pag they're doubting history, they're
Yes.
putting shade on the news, on media. Siyempre, ano pa ba, hindi mo pwedeng spare ang COMELEC. Baga legitimacy is all, at this point, everything is being questioned. And rightfully so. Pero, di ba, tawag dito, kung ganyan lang din, there has to be a common set of rules that everybody agrees to. That otherwise, kumbaga, anarchy na, kung bahala na kung the rules apply to you or not. Kagulo na yung sistema. So that's the idea. This is an interesting topic too, because I think out of all the previous election, and I think we've done this last election too, pero this is the peak of social media utilization for campaign, and really defines countries and nations. It literally won through social media. So let's get it's very important makita natin kung paano nila na-utilize yung platforms nila to further their message, and some others how they're underutilizing social media, kasi we know some candidates that does not want to engage, diba?
Yes.
But ayan ang re-review natin. So obviously, ano ba nauna nung mga nakaraang linggo that you remember that you want to start with?
So there's been a lot that happened na hindi natin na-discuss, especially during our holiday break. There's been a lot, and one of the things that I actually was quite excited about is the reopening of Manila Zoo. Now, syempre, this is something na it might sound like a mundane thing to mention, But the mere fact that the reopening of the Manila Zoo, everyone can see how beautiful it is now as compared to the decrepit state that it was left in by the previous people who have handled it. Syempre, mukhang kawawa yung mga hayop and whatnot. And now we have this revamped look. And the impact of that is that it's creating a good image for a specific candidate, and that is for Manila Mayor Isko Moreno. And we've already established in the past na Isko Moreno went the traditional way of campaigning in the past several months. Actually, he even went here to Laguna to campaign. He went to specific city halls, certain city centers, at nagsalita siya doon. Nag-speak siya doon to an audience of, I'm not entirely sure if there were a lot. And yun, diba? That's a very traditional way of doing things, and just like what you said, not everyone is engaging entirely in social media. But yeah, going back to my point, reopening of Manila Zoo, something that's very good for Isko Moreno. It's plus points, pogi points for him. Kasi it at least shows that he has at least the will to do something good
Right.
for his constituents. What do you think about
I
it?
think kasi this is the whole narrative of Isko Moreno, that how he's turned around Manila in a matter of 3 years. He's always said na, I mean, para tong yung Binay pero mas effective. Kasi yung
Yeah.
Binay campaign before was that ganito kami sa Makati, right?
Yes.
But he really fails to outline what he did for Makati, because one, he assumed everybody knew already, and then second, he was in Manila for what? I mean, in Makati for what? Half of his life?
Decades.
Diba? Parang sobrang
Yes.
tagal na nilang sa Makati, and he really cannot pinpoint things na off memory na masasabi ng mga tao, except for yung city hall niya, and then yung tawag dito, yung parking lot niya na sobrang controversial, which by the way was more expensive than the Manila
Manila
Zoo.
Zoo. Yeah.
Diba? One of the things that we were talking about over the other day was when I saw the figures and then immediately Googled compared to how much allegedly was spent
The
doon
spending.
sa ano. So, I think 1 billion less. Less than 1 billion
Diba?
pesos. Pero na re-renovate na yung Manila Zoo. Whereas in Makati, parking lot lang nila yon.
Yeah.
But that's a tangent. Ang point here is that, that's how Isko gained popularity. From the very beginning, yung nag-iikot siya sa gabi.
Yes.
Everything publicized, yung lagos nila, 'di ba? Yung
Paglilinis ng mga monumento.
yeah, things like that. And then sa Manila Zoo, and then ngayon nga yung drive-through booster, everything talaga
Yes.
they capitalize. So I think to give credit to the campaign strategies nito ni Isko, when the numbers were low, they took advantage. They went out of the country, go where they can go, Cebu, all over the country, nag-traditional route, meet people, did some talks. Ngayon naman nag-level 3. It's highly insensitive for any candidate to go around motorcade and
Yes.
whatnot. So bumalik siya dun sa narrative nila sa Manila na, okay, I'm gonna leave politics behind muna, mag-work muna ako sa Manila. But even then, this is obviously a take advantage opportunity for Isko. So medyo brilliant or strategy nila kasi yung the others, 'di ba? Nag-motorcade. After nun, wala na.
Yeah.
'Di ba parang namatay yung momentum. Unlike si Isko, actually is an advantage going back kasi na-further yung narrative niya. And speaking of taking advantage of opportunity, 'di ba? Remember what happened yung Odette, yung bagyo. I
Yes.
think this is, a very good example, and obviously something big that we have to cover. Also, how the candidates responded to it, yung stunt ni Pacquiao sa Twitter, na second demotion naman ni Madam Leni and whatnot. So, what's your take and observation during the Odette situation? Obviously, iba-iba yung response ng mga to.
So for me, as usual, there is politicizing of support sa malalaking calamities. And I don't know if you've watched shows like Scandal, which talks about political maneuvering and whatnot. They would always say na never waste a crisis. So, here's what I thought about it. when Odette happened, I told you this during our during our holiday break when all this happened, na when Odette hit, we would see the usual suspects. Pangit ng pakinggan. We will see the usual candidates that helps. They will help. We know that. So etong si OVP, Office of the Vice President, we knew that that Leni will be going there, that will be sending help. That's almost a certainty at this point. Second person that I am expecting to show up is Manny Pacquiao. Kasi yung na-hit na area is somewhat close to his voter base, and also he's also already very known for doing a lot of outreach for calamities and other crises. Now, what I told you is that I know for a fact kung ano mangyayari afterwards. Kasi we knew that it was Leni who was leading the charge for volunteerism. 'Di ba yan nga yung ano nila, yan nga yung mantra nila, 'di ba? That's how they're
yung Messiah complex.
Yeah, so na siya yung maglilid ng charge. Unfortunately, someone in the Pacquiao camp was smart enough to send out the rallying cry. So, although I would not discount what Leni did, it was Pacquiao who officially called other candidates to help out. Now, I have many thoughts on that. Number one is
next time, tignan mo, promise.
Kasi ang akin lang naman is that a lot of the candidates does not have the power to hindi naman does not have the power. They would be questioned if they help. Which exactly what happened, 'di ba? So sinabi nila, if I'm not mistaken, the tweet said na ipagsantabi muna natin yung politika and whatnot and do everything that we can to help out. And that was the call, 'di ba? So si Leni nag-second emotion siya kasi that's their narrative.
Quote and quote, will coordinate with your team, ganyan.
Yeah, 'di ba?
And it's really for show. Yung kumbaga, me as observant, 'di ba? Parang observer, political observer. Puta, sabi ko panalo yung ano nito parang
diba?
Talaga stage. Parang ang tawag doon, stage. Setting the stage sila for what's coming up. Pero ang ganda ng turn, medyo they have to learn from that last incident, otherwise they're always just gonna prove the same thing.
What happened after? So this is something na dinidismiss ng mga supporters ni Leni, but I think there is a merit to what they're saying, na every time na Leni would do something, there's always kasunod niya lagi ang press na lahat dinidetail. You can say na it's just for documentation to make sure that the people know na dito napupunta yung tax natin. Sure, that's fine. So we know kung nasaan siya.
Is it our tax or the donation drive? Ay, wag naman. Nagmasyadong yun.
So, ano nangyari ngayon? Of course, the other candidates answered the call. Kasi here's the thing Pacquiao gave them no choice. The call for help, kapag hindi mo sinagot yun, you would look bad. 'Di ba? So
except
what happened?
Lacson. Naalala mo ba yung respond ni Lacson? Kasi Lacson responded, sabi niya, I regret, I will not join the call to help with Odette na the way that they want it. Kasi sabi niya, if they had called me privately, I would have supported them and then joined forces. But being that it was done on social media, parang sabi niya, tinatabi yung politika, pero it's campaigning. Kasi yun yung ginagawa niya. So, he does not want to be part of it. Kumbaga, yung typical mindset ni Lacson na, hindi ako kuha ng PDAP money ko. Kumbaga, matigas siya na ulo.
Kasi he doesn't really use his PDAP money, di ba? Ever since naman.
Oo, so yun yung niya. Hindi siya
what happened is that the remaining candidates were put on a hot seat. So syempre si Marcos and Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte, they cannot ignore that call. Kasi if they do, they will be branded as mga walang kwentang kandidato. Ba't pa kayo nandyan? Hindi pa kayo nakaupo. Wala na kayong ginagawa. And so they did. And I would argue na their coverage of their help was not extensive. I only saw Sara Duterte, yung mga pictures lang when he sent volunteers, yung mga doktor
Doctors, yeah.
and others, at saka yung mga relief goods. Yung mga pictures na yun lang ang nakita ko. Same with Bongbong Marcos, I only saw some of his pictures dun sa
Mga trucks.
yung mga trucks, mga boxes ng relief goods. And what happened? Exactly what I predicted. They would still be called out anyway, na pakitang tao, na politika ito. And ako naman, it boggles my mind na if you are a critical thinking individual, hiningan sila ng tulong ng mga to. 'Di ba?
Yeah.
Ipagsantabi natin ang politika, tulungan natin sila. And they did. And they did not do it in an overly campaigny way, I would say.
Actually, I prefer less coverage kasi you know what's happening now. The grassroots social media is what's telling us of things. Kabaya ng it started with the caravan, right? Yung caravan coverage. When you see in the news, lalo na yung sinend mo sa akin na yung picture na parang yung mga angulo nung kumuha ng camera, it appears na punong-puno yung basketball court. Pero in reality, parang isang linya lang yun. They just covered in different angles.
Yeah,
and so that's why there's doubt with media. And so what people are doing, they go to TikTok, they upload their own coverage of their campaign. So whether Leni ka, Marcos ka, Pacquiao, whatever camp, they upload. And then people decide kung ano ba yung totoo on the ground. And that's what's happening, right? So, anong nangyari? And I think this is also the angle na sinabi ko kanina na they should learn from this. One, they should first lead the call for helping. Dapat
maunahan, yes.
Pangalawa, when you do, ang naging tactic kasi nila ngayon, they are borrowing from the narrative ng Dilawan versus DDS na si Duterte naunang pumunta ng Tacloban before nung ano ba pangalan? Undoy? Yolanda. So, yun yung narrative. So, the idea is, paunahan sino makapunta doon. Kasi, ikaw yung pinakamabilis, ikaw pinaka-responsive. Yun yung I even saw interview ni Leni na, we took the first flight out, make sure na nandoon na kami, ganyan. But people getting smarter eh. They read it differently. Kasi ang ginawa, Baguio, pumunta siya doon, nauna sila when it comes to after the Baguio. Diba? So pagdating niya doon, ang ginawa, may kasamang press, and then nag-interview, nagtanong, what do you need? Ano yung kailangan ninyo dito? And then people actually threw shade at that. Kasi, come on, Leni Cam, ilang bagyo na ba yung pinagdaanan ng Pilipinas? Para to ask pa, ano yung kailangan nila every time there's a natural calamity like this? It doesn't make sense. Kasi obviously, alam mo naman yung mga immediate need right after. And then, pumunta siya doon in that area nang walang dala daw na to follow pa. Kasi nga, it's all for press na paunahan makarating doon. May media coverage. And then, the angle naman nung nila Sara and whatever is, there were lots of pictures na before the typhoon hit, nag-iipon na sila ng bigas, nag-iipon na sila ng material. Kaya when they deployed, they knew exactly what to bring. Diba? And then there wasn't much coverage kasi nga narrative, hindi sila kino-cover ng media. So they're staying true to that. At ang ginagawa nila, kunwari, organic lang yung mga post. Pero, you can assume na nagpipicture nun sila rin. Or mga supporter nila and others. So, kaya, alam mo na, hindi yan 100% malinis. But that was the better narrative for me na they knew exactly what the place needed, and in fact, right, even before the calamity hit, nagre-ready na sila kasi they knew what was coming up.
Kasi there's an inherent problem with the tactic of Leni kasi. The tactic of Leni is only going to work if you are able to prove that the government is not doing enough. Kasi yan naman lagi yung tactic nila, diba? But unfortunately, in certain scenarios, hindi kasi yun yung nangyayari. So for example, for Odette, they're calling the government na ang daming kulang, ang daming ganito, yet a lot of the resources of the government is already being brought in to help Odette victims. ultimo yung barko mismo, if I'm not mistaken, barko ng Navy tsaka barko ng yung sa Pangulo mismo, they turned that into a floating hospital to help these people, to send out as much help as possible. And the thing is, it's not that it's not being covered. It's being covered by PTV, of course, by the state media. But there is no, how would I say this? Social media spread of these things kasi people are highlighting something else. So they are highlighting yung help ni Leni. Kasi parang, eto kasi parang ang nagiging thinking ng tao, pag tumulong si Leni, ibig sabihin nun, hindi tumulong si
government.
It's like they are equating na her doing the things that needs to be done, meaning na parang zero-sum game siya na hindi pwedeng mangyari.
So, kung walang ginawa si Leni, walang nangyari. Parang ganun pinapalabas nila.
Ang ano lang naman doon is that's a flaw in your campaign tactic kasi ngayon ang mangyayari, you have to publicize
every single
you have to publicize every single thing that you do. Kasi if you falter even for one crisis, matalo ka in one crisis, that's a ding against you. Your supporters would not hold that against you, they won't. But everyone else from the outside of your circle,
alam mo na, every single weakness they will hamper on that to the end of the world, for sure.
They built that image of Leni na ikaw ang tagapagligtas ng mga nasa sakuna, ikaw ang bayani ng mga nasa laylayan. Hindi ka tutulungan ng gobyerno, kami ang tutulong sa inyo. And there's even
mali nga so sobrang reactive nung camp niya. They're really behind at this point with some of those na andali nilang mapulaan yung point na sige, kailangan mauna ka doon. They did everything para makarating siya doon kahit wala pa silang dala. Alam mo yun, yung tipong
reality,
instead of helping, nagiging disadvantage pa kasi lalo pang lumalabas na namumuliti ka lang sila.
Kasi you don't have to be there in order to help. That's the reality of things. But of course, mas maganda kasi talaga sa camera kapag ka nandun ka. I've seen some
pumunta rin si Isko kahit wala namang pumunta siya si Isko, I think in Cebu, tapos namigay ng 2 million ata from the city of Manila.
Ito kasi nakakatawa This is the double standard. Na I was watching this unfold na nag-donate si Isko Soto ng pera and he was applauded. And then when Isko Moreno donates something, they were okay with it. And then when Sara Duterte and Bongbong Marcos donated, it's somehow political stunts.
Ito kasi yan Pagdating sa pyramid ng argument, it's kapag ginawa ni Leni, it's super questionable to the DBS. Kapag ginawa naman ng Marcos, it's super questionable. So whether they did right or wrong, you can expect na the loudest noise is coming from both sides. It will be magnified, diba? Yun yung problema. So at the end of the day, anything we do is political. Don't for 1 second think na they're doing it for the goodness of their hearts. Si Pacquiao or kung sino mang napunta dyan. Because they did it. If they don't, it will be disadvantageous sa kanila. So at the end of the day, expect na natin yun, but they have to be smarter in every play. They can't be doing the same play all over. Nung mali dun kasi diba napulaan na wala siya, punta siya nung alam mo yun, yung mindset na next calamity ganito gagawin. But by this time you have to have a playbook, diba? May bagyong darating, super typhoon, bago pa yun mag-press release ka na kayo magaling diba? Naghahanda na po ang kampo ni ganito na ganyan. And then after every calamity, magsabi ka na meron po tayong isasang-alang na set aside na calamity fund outside what the government provides, meaning donation. Kasi you really cannot realistically ask donation every single calamity, diba? And funnel that in a way that it makes a difference to the people. Kasi yung first 28, 48 hours, yun yung super critical. Kung mag-donation drive ka pa and then, how do you account for, yun yung isa sa mga mali. That's why, since this is their narrative, mag-all in ka na dyan. O, di ba? Meron kang year-round donation, whatever, na it will not go to my campaign. Instead, it goes to helping people. I-turn
And
around mo. I mean, this is
and
all,
just
parang napaka, anong tawag doon? Hypocritical na humingi ng donation, tapos post ka ng post ng ads sa kung saan-saan na magkano ginagastos. 'Di ba? I mean, yung susunod nating yung susunod nating subject, 'di ba? Yung mga strategy nito sa pagka-campaign so far. Kaya parang kapag ka may pang-ads ay pang-campaign, may pera kayo. Kapag ka magpo-provide ng help sa calamity, kailangan na magpa-donation drive. Hindi ko ma-connect 'di ba?
kasi, and just to be clear, we're not saying it's bad. It's a good thing that there are people, powerful people that are allocating funds, that are pooling resources in order to help people who are in need. Just to be clear, that's okay. It's just that we're saying if you're going to use it for political stunts, be smart about it and make sure na hindi yung token na lang yung pagtulong nyo. Just make it like yun na talaga yun. This is something that would really help people. Just like what you said, before a calamity comes, we already know kung anong kailangan ng tao. Ano pa bang hindi natin na-experience dito sa Pilipinas? Floods and extreme
volcano, hayop, 'di ba? Earthquakes.
Lahat yan na-experience na natin, and we have historical data of the things that we need after every single one of those. And those are the things that you need to take into account when you are doing a very voluntaristic type of campaign. So,
ibiyahin mo na yung mga truck ng Meralco from Manila to the areas that will be hit days before. Hindi yung, 'di ba? Ewan ko
sa power restoration.
Ang gulo-gulo ng buhay niyo dyan.
Ikaw,
so, anyway,
diba?
it's a strategy. I mean, this is still in line with the strategies that we're seeing, 'di ba?
Yeah.
So, ako naman, aside from that, syempre, ang basa ko naman, the social media strategy, obviously, the survey came out over end of December, and then it shows Marcos with a huge lead versus Leni, and this despite the campaign. So over the holiday, I traveled extensively, right? I went to Ilocos, I went to La Union, to Pampanga, to kahit saan. Basically, everywhere I go, there is tarps. So obviously expected. Tarpaulin ng kung sino-sinong kandidato. But more than that now, I really see these camps utilizing social media more than anything. And I mentioned it partially already. Si Leni, one of the biggest, you know what, nakapag-premium ako ng YouTube Premium. I subscribe.
Premium na kita before.
Diba? Pinapag-premium ako before. Sabi ko, I don't see a need kasi parang okay lang naman.
There is a need. I
Sakto
told
lang.
you.
So, kasi I have Apple Music. I have Spotify. Kasama sa sa YouTube subscription, Apple Music. YouTube Music. Sabi ko, okay na. Tapos meron ako Netflix. Kumbaga, I have so much subscriptions. I didn't think I needed one. Pero, regardless, and it seems like whatever I watch, manood akong Top Gear, manood ako ng tech review, news, whatever, laging lumalabas yung kalayaan sa COVID plan nito ni Madam, which we reviewed extensively. Kung di ko sana na-review yon, and kung di natin na-review, napanood at nahimay, I think I won't mind if pwedeng skip. Pero the fact that I know the contents, diba, na it's just puro buzzwords, then I subscribe to YouTube Premium. So thanks to the campaign, and then obviously another experience na we both share is yung mga Facebook groups, right?
Yes.
And we're not saying it's directly tied to the camps. Yung ads for sure. Tied yan sa camp ng mga to. Pero yung mga Facebook groups, troll pages, whatever, some of them might be. I don't know. I'm not accusing anyone. But I will be surprised if they don't have troll farms. Lahat sila. Pero the Facebook groups that we have that supposedly has nothing to do with politics is being infested by this political post. And what's worst is talagang army sila na if you call for decency, talagang bobombard ka. Kapag ako, kagaya nung sinabi ko lang na wag pakiban ang mga political posts, 'di ba? Natag ka kagad na pag may sinabing against sa ganito kandidato, they assume already na nando ka sa kabilang side. So kung
Yes.
admin nun ay dilawans or pinks, feeling nila Marcos ka na pag nagpaban ka ng political post. Pagka doon ka naman sa group na puro DDS or Marcos at nagpaban ka, feeling nila is kakamping ka na. So, it's becoming super, super toxic na, for example, financial groups, we talk about stocks, IPOs, upcoming things that actually is for benefit of the people na mga tao. Kasi, financial literacy and all that.
Information.
Tapos nagpo-post sila sa survey. I mean, saan pa tayong website nakapunta na walang survey kung sinong kandidato? 'Di ba? Sobrang dami. Lahat na ng page, group at whatever nakapag-survey na. Hindi mababago ang resulta. Kahit sa isang group na admin ay kakamping, tinatalo pa din ang mga kakamping. Huwag na nating i-deny kasi all reputable surveys show na lamang talaga ang group ni Marcos. Now again,
Except
we're saying
if you do it on Twitter.
Actually, I showed you 'di ba yung trending nung nakaraan. Kasi sabi nila Twitter army, pakita natin yung lakas ng ganito. Kasi nga when the survey came out, nilabanan niya ng Twitterverse. Sabi ng Twitter, pakita daw nila yung totoong botante.
Mhm.
Tapos, since they did that, they called for and then syempre nagbato sila ng something against the other side. Yung other side napuno, and then they created the same a different hashtag. Tapos in a matter of 2 hours, naabutan nila yung hashtag nung kabilang camp. Meaning talagang kinakain sila, and there's so many silent people even on Twitter na alam nating mostly the vocal ones are campings. Marami doon na din talaga. They're full of it. Kumbaga, it's just crazy. Wag na natin sa akin lang, tanggapin nila. And then, the fact na hindi mo mababago yung opinion ng isang tao na against sa'yo, instead you're turning them away further. That's the wrong approach.
Kasi we talked about it in a previous episode na the wrong thing that the Leni campaign, or at least the Leni supporters are doing, is trying to bully, trying to forcefully convert Marcos supporters into Leni supporters. Kahit anong gawin mo, they would not support Leni. Kasi these two are parang polar opposites to no? If you are supporting the values, the vibe of Bongbong Marcos, you would never go for Leni Robredo, and the same goes for the other side. Kung ikaw ay tunay na supporter ni Leni Robredo, regardless of what happens, you will never vote for Bongbong Marcos. So, yun yung sinasabi natin, di ba? It just turns into a giant argument na walang nangyayari hanggang mag-devolve na yan into insultuhan na lang. And I've seen this. Just like sa Star Wars Philippines group, my God, Star Wars, and ang daming nagpipilit na it's political and blah blah blah. It just became toxic. And even us people, we both have our political beliefs, and I don't even campaign for the person who I
don't
support.
share. I don't even whatever.
Ang sinasabi ko lang, take these out kasi bare minimum, parang sabi ko nga, hahanap sila ng post ni Leni Robredo, lalagyan lang ng bare minimum ng Star Wars, lalagyan ng Star Wars quote, tapos ipopost doon. And yun na yun. But anyway, regardless, yun nga, kasi ang mga tao lang na pwede mo ma-convert into a Leni supporter is someone who supports Isko Moreno, someone possibly who supports Ping Lacson, or even
Pacquiao.
I doubt kay Pacquiao. Pero yung dalawang yon, supporters of those two people, those are the people who you are able to convert to your side. Kasi arguing with a Marcos supporter, walang mangyayari sa inyo, mag-aaway lang kayo. And that's the sad reality of it. And kasi ang nangyayari ngayon, Ben Shapiro mentioned this, na when you're debating a person, You have to identify your goal in doing so. So, ano bang goal mo? Are you planning on converting this person into believing what you believe? If that's not possible, it's no longer the goal. The goal now is to kung sino yung mas mapapahiya. It's just for social
Right.
points. And that what I believe is what's happening right now. Basically, nagpapapogian, nagpapagalingan lang sa social media. And it's not
Yeah,
really
that's
helping anyone. It's only helping their ego, basically.
yeah,
And
that's the
that's
nature
not,
of ano naman tawag dito online arguments. We've known kahit anong topic, 'di ba? Parang they become
yes.
experts all of a sudden. So the point is kasi online is a lot of negativity. So there are places na sana may refuge yung mga tao to really pursue certain interests. And then if you put politics there, kaya nga ako nag-unfollow ng mga news outlets and everything because I don't want to see it. But I'm not apolitical. 'Di ba? Hindi ako passive when it comes to politics.
There is a reason why we have
Diba?
this podcast.
Yeah, oo.
We're not apolitical.
Sabi ko, parang ang may pinost pa nga doon kasi may sumasagot pa, sabi ko. Alam nyo, kung gusto nyo talaga ng debate, isend lang ko kayo ng Zoom invite. Come on, join me and then let's do it live. Wala tayong ma-accomplish sa group na to. Kasi hindi ito para dito. Kung gusto ko lang, kaya kong makipag-debate sa inyo. Kung gusto ko. Kasi yung platform, hindi dapat dito. If I wanted to argue about something, I would go there. Diba? Pero hindi dito. That's the only thing that we're pointing out. Kasi matatabunan ng mga unnecessary post. Yung importante na sana may question na masasagot mo or may mga bagay na updates that you would miss. Ang dami-daming IPO, diba? Na darating.
Yes.
Mga ganung bagay. So, hindi, mali yung pwesto. So, in the end, actually, I realized na that group was only useful to me at the beginning when I was starting off. I've been in the market for a year. I don't need them and the toxicity, so I left. But I left my mark there and saying na kung gusto nyo talaga sabihan nyo ka PPM, mag-Zoom tayo. Ano tayo dyan. Kung gusto nyo talaga
Sali sila dito sa Discord meeting.
ng conversation. The point lang is mali yung discussion. So
Mali yung platform.
Going to the next subject that we talk about. We have this video we want to go over. The concept is that the whole beginning rants that we have is because there seems to be lack of rules at this point kasi pre-campaign period siya. Wala pang naka-establish na anong pwedeng gawin, sa hindi pwedeng gawin, so they pretty much do whatever they want. Now, in the official campaign period, believe it or not, may mga rules po ang COMELEC na pwedeng gawin at hindi pwedeng gawin ng mga kandidato. And as citizens, it's on us to police them and really watch kung nasusunod ba tong mga na to. And as we talk about campaigning through social media, this video we're gonna see that we are gonna react to talks about or outlines the rules on how they want the candidates to behave during the campaign period. So I think it's very interesting kasi ang hirap isipin kung paano nila i-enforce yung mga ganitong rules and if it even has bearing sa pagkapanalo, disqualify or whatever ng certain candidates. What's in it for the candidates? What's in it for COMELEC? What's in it for the voters? Bakit ba may ganitong rules? You would think na magaganyan sila kung may purpose no? Pero tingnan natin, alam mo naman, to put some credibility in the election process, let's see kung ano yung what COMELEC has to say. Again, this is a few hours since it's uploaded, so I don't think anyone have watched it, so let's watch it together.
So this is after the fact from ANC. It's the COMELEC guidelines for 2022 election. So let's take a look at it.
Welcome back to After the Fact. Joining us now is COMELEC spokesman, Director James Jimenez. Good evening, Director James Jimenez, and thank you for joining us again on the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
I'd like to talk about this initiative by the Commission on Elections. This was started, I think, in 2019, or I think this was also thought of as early as 2016. The monitoring of campaign expenses online, especially on social media. And by the end of the month, you set a deadline for political candidates and their supporters, if I'm not mistaken, to make a particular registration. What is that all about?
Yeah, we're asking the candidates and their campaigns to register the websites and blog sites that they're going to use for their campaign. Basically, we're asking them to let us know where they're going to put out their campaign ads so that it'll be easier for us to monitor them.
Okay, so what else do they need to register? For instance, Twitter accounts, Facebook pages, YouTube channels. What else?
Everything online that they will use to pump out their campaign messages. So, for example, a candidate could have an official Twitter account. A candidate could also have a Facebook account at the same time, as well as a TikTok account, as well as a blog. Let's say with a www.name.com URL. Now they would have to register that as well. Basically, any online presence that they have should be registered.
That is attached to them. But what if they don't want to make it official? Let's say, how they establish the link between a particular page or account and candidate.
Basically, you'll be looking at the pattern of use, right? If you see a website that isn't registered but is regularly churning out campaign messages, then there would be reason for the COMELEC to take a second look at that website and to see that whether or not its behavior qualifies it as a campaign outlet, and then it will be treated properly.
Okay, so what if a particular candidate or campaign fails to register those accounts or platforms or media to the COMELEC? What happens?
Well, of course, it'll make back checking their source a little more difficult, but we will continue to do the work anyway. Whether or not it's an election offense, it's a directory requirement. Basically, we're telling them to do it because it's more convenient for everyone, but it doesn't rise to the level of an election offense.
So this is not mandatory, but
Not mandatory. It's a directory requirement, yes.
So technically, they can ignore this.
They could, but then again,
That's a good
if they
point.
do ignore it, then we will let the public know, because they will have to explain the ads that are coming out of all of these other websites, and the public will know that they did not follow the rules of the COMELEC.
I understand at the end of this registration, the COMELEC would provide verification stamps or something. You would
Yes.
verify those pages, for instance, right? How
Well,
would it work?
we're working with the platforms to provide verification badges to candidates who are willing to avail of that process. It's very important because it allows.
Teka lang. Naalala ko lang kasi so far what we've been hearing para tong verified Shopee, ganyan. That is
Yeah, Shopee
verified
preferred.
store. Oo, mga hayop. And tapos sabi kasi di ba, so technically they can ignore it. Yeah, they can ignore it. Na, parang
But we will tell everyone that they ignored
Oo.
it.
parang at this point na litong-lito ako sa sa conversation na to eh. Kasi parang you impose this for convenience para daw madali nilang ma-monitor or track, right? Say, for example, they registered 100 websites, Facebook account, pages, and whatever. Is that necessarily easier? Tapos yung sinabi niya pa kanina na syempre kahit hindi register, they can monitor. And then if it regularly churns out daw material, and then they would check kung tawag dito, they would take a second look. Ito yung question ko around the logistics, yung paano, yung manpower ng commission on election to actually enforce this and see it. Like for example, our blog, if we, our podcast, if we put out content every week that we talk about the politics, right? And then a lot of the things that we talk about are towards the candidates. Now, is that considered regular enough? And then, how do you group our podcast? Are we on the GDS or are we kakamping? Are we
Wala tatanggap sa
Lacton?
atin
Are we
based
blue?
on what we've said in the past.
Diba?
Yeah.
Diba? So, sobrang, I think it's super vague to me that it's almost a waste of time.
Kasi
And-
wala silang binigay na criteria kung gaano kadami, gaano kadalas for a specific account to be considered as a campaign account. So for example, ito pa. What if it's a personal account? What if it's a business page? Kunyari, we have a personal business with my partner. Paano kung biglang na-realize namin na we wanted to support a specific candidate? and then we would put out specific, kunyari, kada post namin ng product namin, there would be some sort of witty message supporting our candidate, and we do it on a regular basis. Are we going
Gagawing
to
promo,
be
no?
considered?
Gagawing promo kapag
Oo,
camping ka, may
promo code.
discount or whatever.
Use
oo.
promo code Leni 2022 or use promo code BBM 2022. And 'di ba? What would be the criteria? I hope that they would release an actual guideline of what would be considered as a campaign affiliate blog or account, kasi they mentioned everything, di ba? Blog sites, Facebook, Twitter,
basta online presence.
TikTok, di ba? Basta online presence, you mentioned na ganun. And we know that there is a specific side na ang mga volunteers nila, ang mga supporters nila are really, really using social media to show their
TP,
support.
right? Si Thinking Pinoy, for example, how would
Yeah.
you group TP? Obviously, meron siyang association kay Marcos. Na-i-interview niya yung mga Marcoses. He has access to them, and big time DDS to. So, when he puts out content, obviously, always in favor of the other
Yes.
candidate. So, paano mo i-group yung ganun? Diba? And then, ito pa, the biggest question is, what separates Rappler from other websites? Diba? Ano yung pinagkaiba nun? Do you consider
Kasi,
them that?
especially now that they're not technically considered as a news outlet by the Philippine government, would they be considered as
A blog.
someone who's putting out content for the pink
For
side?
Leni? Oo, ganyan.
Diba? Kasi it's hard. This criteria is hard to do, hard to follow. Although I understand the sentiment behind it. Kasi, for example now, I've seen a lot of photos showing na yung ad ni Leni is already at 33 million views, and it's not because people click on that video. It's because that is the ad that's playing on every single video when you watch it on YouTube.
Nanonood yung anak ko ng Miss Rachel ng Peppa Pig. Ayun yung ads.
Pink kasi si Peppa Pig.
Ay, oo nga, no?
Syempre, diba? Related yun.
Tapos si Miss Rachel, nanay siya. Diba? Yung nagtuturo ng
Oo.
language. Ay, nako. Bali ko doon. Sorry, my fault.
The point is, I understand na yun nga, we need to monitor kung ano ba yung big spenders, especially those who are spending in ads. Kasi these ads, they're not, for something to reach 33 million, it's not cheap.
Yeah.
For Facebook, yung mga pakonti-konting ad na lumalabas for like 1,000 people, 2,000 people, it's actually cheap. We've done that before with our business, but if it's far-reaching, and I mentioned to this,
oo.
I've mentioned to this, you this before, kasi for the viewers, we have several burner Facebook accounts that we use for research. Paano if if an account is 100% unaffiliated to any single party, wala tayong nilike na page ng partido or any media entity that leans towards a certain way, ano ba yung mga makikita mong ads? And
Paano ka mababakit sa
Yung-
Facebook algorithm?
the experience namin ni Marlon, it's Leni ads that's showing up.
Yes.
And this account barely has any friends, na talagang newly minted account to, and that's what's showing up. And that means that there is a broad target for these ads. And I'm not entirely sure how much the ads that are being spent, kasi some people are saying na you can go to Leni Robredo or Bongbong Marcos' page, you go to the ads something, you can see how much they spent. But the thing is, they're not the only ones that are putting out ads. There are certain pages, certain people that are putting out ads, paid ads, all over the platform, which means na, yun nga, that's why I understand.
Mali din yung manager ng Facebook account ni Leni, no? Hindi nila naisip yun. Or naisip nila, pero that's only a portion of what they really put out. So, kumbaga, controlled na yun for them. Either way, it wasn't a good phase na napakalaki na ng ginagastos nila. Well, that's only Facebook, may Twitter, may Instagram,
may TikTok ka pa. We've already had that issue before na yung allegedly, binayaran yung ilang influencers to promote a specific candidate. And So I understand the sentiment, but the problem is how would you exactly enforce it? I mean, it became a big issue in the US, 'di ba? Yung targeted ads.
Oo.
It was
Yeah,
a
the whole
big
thing
issue.
about this is censorship, and also how do you enforce? And then dyan mo ba talaga, Comelec, your resources would be spent there? Like, ilan yung moderators nyo to do this? Kung wala pa kayong nagma-manage na, and I'm open, hire nyo ako. I'll moderate the team. I'll
Ako din.
Diba? Let's manage the team that
Maghahanap
will
tayo ng mga
moderate
ano.
this content, diba? Pero, anong klaseng expenses ang gagamitin ni Comelec to do this? When, one, it's not even direct rule. They are not considered violating election rules kapag hindi
it's
sila
not
nag-submit. Diba? And
Kasi,
to think na pinag-isipan nila to 2016, 2019, halos ilang taon nyo na iniisip, parang poorly executed pa din, di ba?
Kasi I think what they're trying to do is trying to catch these people on other campaign offenses. So for example, yung campaign spending. If a person overspent on their campaign, that's definitely a campaign offense if I'm not mistaken.
Kahit naman hindi sa social media or on online. Etong mga partido na to, they all have means and ways to make it look like they have not overspent.
Yeah.
Diba? Ano yan? Paid for, sponsored by the friends of ganito.
The friends and family of ganito. Yes.
Diba? Oh, edi, ano ba yun? Sige, tignan mo. Meron pa siyang mga kinover dito eh. So, later, anuhin natin yung mga iba-ibang
May
detail.
mga ibang bagay pa ako na pwede natin. Well, anyway, let's continue. There's still a long way to go in the video.
Us to fix accountability for the information that they put out. So yes, we will be helping them achieve that verification status.
Okay. Again, of course, we can expect a lot of them to abide by this directive by the Comelec. But of course, we can also expect reasonably that others would also ignore this for their own convenience. So, yun nga, what if, let's say, a particular Twitter account or Facebook page continues to provide ads or to post ads about a particular candidate? You said that pattern would be instructive for the Comelec, no? To do some checking, right?
Yeah. Also, remember, there are some formal requirements for filing their sources. No? There are reportorial requirements that are necessary for candidates to show. For example, you can't have someone just making expenditures for your campaign without your consent. So if you're having a website that is putting out campaign materials and you're not claiming to have given consent to it, and the claim of consent would be shown by registering that website, then you might have a problem. Then that might be an election offense, right? So in that case, it's not the fact of non-registration that is a problem. It's that the fact of non-registration points to a failure to comply with other formal and more stringent rules, again, such as the requirement for consent for election expenditures. Okay. So it's really all about the legalities of enforcing the SOSE.
Okay, so for example, a particular Facebook page continued to post updates or ads about a particular candidate, even if the candidate is not claiming ownership toward that particular page, that can work potentially against him.
Yes.
That can be used by the Comelec against him?
Yes, because they can be held accountable for the expenditures of other people, right? Especially if it's clear that the expenditures are regular, if they are used to really push for the campaign of the candidate.
So the expenses for that particular page can be charged against the particular candidate?
Yes.
On the other hand, that can also be used to sabotage particular candidates, right? Let's say ako yung kalaban, I can put up certain bogus accounts,
right,
and then put certain token ads, diba? Pwede yan.
Pwede yan, which is why it is in the interest of the candidates to defend themselves, basically by saying that's not mine because these are my registered campaign sites. So if that's acting like a campaign outlet of mine, then think again because I have registered campaign outlets. Again,
Napakababaw.
I
Napakababaw.
no quick and easy formula for
Ayan.
determining accountability. But a lot of this will probably be, you could call it circumstantial. And that would be necessary in determining whether or not these candidates have actually been complying with the SOSE rules.
And for instance, in the case of social media posts, how would you determine how much was spent for, let's say, a particular ad that was boosted on a particular page or account?
Well, we have access to the political ads library, for example, of one major advertising platform, and we do have arrangements with other platforms where they will be giving us summaries
Info, yeah.
of the ads put out in the name of a particular candidate. No? So it will depend on whose information we're asking for. And historically, we've been asking for everyone's information anyway. So we can get that information. So that basically, if you're looking at ads, for example, on Twitter, we could find out how many times your tweets have been boosted or have been promoted in the language of Twitter. The same way for a platform like Facebook.
How about those?
So, that's... He already knows the inherent problem for this. Kasi, di ba nga, nalabuan ako doon sa sinabi niya. So, for example, if I am kunyari tayong dalawa magkalaban tayo sa eleksyon, gumawa ako ng account, and then I put in a humongous amount of money to run your ads. Sabihin na natin na shitty ads siya, hindi siya mga dekalidad na ads, just to make sure na you don't get boosted too much. And then sasabihin natin, hindi ko sasabihin mo, syempre hindi ko ni-register yan. But regardless, the main point is that there is no incentive for them to not register something na I don't even know how to explain how
wala nga parang the logic of the registration doesn't do anything kasi pag na-register mo yan na sa'yo, you can be held accountable for it. Pag hindi mo yan na-register sa'yo, pwede ka pa rin ma-hold accountable to it kasi ads mo pa din yung nilalabas niya. So why register at all? Kasi diba, sasabihin mo lang na ito yung mga sa'yo. So, kumbaga, ang purpose mo lang mag-register, masabing compliant ka, number 1. Diba? Yes. And then also, para you have plausible deniability, pwede mong i-deny all others. So, pwede kang mag-exceed ng, kumbaga ako, I have Facebook page, for example. Doon ka gagastusin yung to the limit.
Yeah.
As I create another one, and then exceed that to the ends of the world, and then just simply claim na hindi akin yun kasi hindi ko nga niya sinama sa registration eh.
Kasi that's going to be hard. I mean, regardless, I know that I'm not sure if this will happen or if this has happened in the past. Na, especially now, yun nga, narrative ng Leni side is volunteerism. There's a lot of people that are pulling their resources to try to help their campaign. And what if somebody unknowingly pushes them over the limit? Nagpo-post sila ng ads, and we've seen this before. Yun nga, sabi ko, yung mga ads, it's happening on Facebook. This is going to be crazy.
Pwedeng itay to the candidate yung expenditure ng mga supporter niya. Parang sabi, di ba? Ang gulo-gulo naman ng na yan. Ng proposition na yan.
Ang mangyayari nun, bale, kailangan sawayin ng candidate yung supporters nila. Please don't post ads on my behalf.
At the end of the day, I think this is just to say na Comelec is trying to do something with their online campaign.
Yes.
Just so much like pag sinabing mag-alert level 2, 3, 4, kunwari may alert pa pero wala naman na talagang
wala na talagang
eksena, di ba? So, sige, play mo pa yan. Masaya yan. Meron pa yan si Kuya. Okay, matatalino
also with let's say, tap the services of so-called influencers, yung mga celebrities.
Influencer.
Di ba may kanya-kanya mga YouTube channels yan, for instance. And then a candidate was interviewed in one of those channels. For example,
kung gusto nyong mag-add sa amin in full context,
how would you treat that?
Well, influencers are considered to be contractors. They provide a service, and therefore they will have the reportorial requirements as well, such as, for example, giving contracts, certificates of consent, any sort of arrangement between them and the candidate. No? So in the best case, they will be forthright about this. and they'll be able to show
In the
these
best
documents
case.
as part of their reporting. However, in cases where this is not so clear, then again you'll fall back on the need to really discover whether or not a pattern exists. Like I said earlier, this sort of thing defies easy definition. There's no checklist to go against and say, ito, they did all of this, therefore ganito siya. Hindi ganon. It's a question of really determining whether or not expenditures have been made and how those expenditures should be counted against whoever they should be counted against.
Okay, so I suppose you will start counting and charging certain ads put up against particular candidates at the start of the campaign period.
At the start of the campaign period, and it helps that for example, Google has put a pause on their political ads campaigning because then their political advertising, because then that will be like at least half of the work done. But we'll have to continue monitoring, of course, for political content.
Ano daw?
So that
Pinost
we'll
ng
know
Google?
what's happening out there.
Post
I don't
o
know,
post?
pause. Kasi Google announced that they would not be accepting political ads during the non-campaign period.
Paano yung YouTube?
Eto na nga. So, ako, you already know my stand on this. Na, in my opinion, as soon as they submit their certificate of candidacy, we should start counting.
True.
Kasi, ano nangyayari? They go all out during the political pause period, supposedly. Kung hindi pa nag-pause si Google, hindi sila hindi magsa-stop yung political ads doon. But the thing is, Facebook, YouTube,
Kaya nga si Google
what's the
lang, no?
point,
Hindi si
diba?
Alphabet, diba? Parang,
kasi 'di ba, if it's Google per se, it should be including YouTube, including mga iba pang sites under
Platforms,
there for platform. But the thing is,
pakitang
yun nga,
tao
kasi
din yung Google eh.
we've had this conversation in private before na dapat talaga pagka-file ng certificate of candidacy, nagsa-start na tayong magbilang ng spending. So for example, si Manny Pacquiao, we already know this person is already spending a lot of money, him going around giving people money, literally giving people money, and it's not considered vote buying kasi hindi pa nagsisimula yung campaign period. I would argue na the moment they sign the certificate of candidacy, they're already campaigning. Kasi, I mean, kung tutuusin nga, supposedly, the moment they announce that they will run, that should already be counted. But syempre, mahirap yan eh. Wala kang official start
Papers.
date. Wala kang legality behind it. But the moment they file their certificate of candidacy, you should start counting. Kasi we've seen that there's a ton of ads of different candidates. There's a ton of billboards out there. Malayo pa yung election. Sobrang dami na. And this is not just for for national officials. This is even for local. Tad-tad na ng mga Starpolin na
Nakita ko nga uli si
kalat-kalat
Monsur
na.
del Rosario. Buhay pa pala yun.
It's crazy, diba? They're already spending this, and whatever big, huge, gigantic amount of money they spend during this period, imagine, kailan yung filing of candidacy? November. Kailan ng campaign period? What? Kailan ba?
Diba?
April?
Oo. So, parang alam ko 90 days or 60 days before.
The time that we are not counting their expenditure when we already know that they are going to run for a specific post, hindi natin binibilang yun. That's a big chunk of it. And eto pa, ang isa pa kasi doon is that mahirap kasi na ang mga kandidato natin ay gumagastos ng napakalaking pera. I have a big belief na someone who is spending a ton of money is not someone that you can easily rely on. Why? Kasi ano bang sahod lang ng mga politiko?
Taos puso yan. Gusto lang talaga nilang tumulong.
Diba?
Pero makakatulong lang sila pag presidente na sila. So, papanalunin natin sila. Ano ba yan?
For me,
Diba?
yun talaga, I strongly believe that the moment they submit their certificate of candidacy, we start counting expenditure. Kung yung ibang mga mga ibang rules for campaign. Sige, doon lang sa campaign period. But that would at least temper kung ano ba yung mga nangyayari ngayon. Yung mga
Eto.
tagtag na political ads and whatnot.
Talking about strategies kasi ng politiko, di ba? The criticism was that ang daming ginagastos nung camps for advertising. And it's pre-election. Tapos kapag may calamity, kailangan nila mag-donation drive. So that's one. Second, in social media, you technically can campaign without campaigning.
Yes.
And even on campaign period, without actually spending money. Kasi
Exactly.
YouTube is free. Facebook is free. Diba? Your expense should only really be what? Your content editor, your video editor, your social media manager. Diba? That's way less than you would if you spent millions, put your face in front of somebody. Kasi if you're creative enough to create a content, it will go viral on its own and the people actually will share your ads or whatever if they really truly support you, and it doesn't have to cost you millions and millions of pesos to do it. Diba? Kumbaga, that's the obvious loophole. If you want to play social media, you play social media. You don't have to spend so much money to do that. Diba? Kumbaga, wala talagang it doesn't make sense to me na for somebody to spend so much on ads on social media when a lot of things you can do on social media is free. Diba?
Yes.
Kumbaga, ano lang sa akin yan eh. There's really a lot of underlying...
We mentioned that before na social media is a great equalizer, na mahirap na ngayon mag-disqualify. Supposedly, dapat, mahirap na mag-disqualify na you are a nuisance candidate for
Kasi wala kang means. Oo.
Wala kang means. Kasi social media is free and it can reach everywhere. I mean, our podcast alone, if you look at our statistics, we have
diba?
a lot. Yeah, we have a lot of listeners from overseas. We're not even sure if kung naligaw lang yung iba doon. But some of them were listening for the entire episode. That is just a testament of how big of an audience you can get online for free. Wala kaming gastos dito sa podcast na to. Sa totoo lang. Well, not entirely true, but kasi yung equipment namin, but we bought that
Oras lang, oo.
on our own accord. But yeah, it's free. These things are free. Yeah, I don't get it why we need to be bombarded with things like that. Pag unescapable ad pa, yung mga nakakapikon eh.
Saka bakit kailangan pagtuunan masyado ng pansin
Yeah,
ng
diba?
Kung ano na to, when there's no clear enforcement, you will just throw a lot of gray area. And the fact that it's gray area, say, si Marcos nag-violate, right? Anong klaseng kaso at abogado ang kailangan mo para makipag-away to prove na nag-violate yan? Kasi the rules is very vague, and then syempre kapag may penalize ka dyan or held accountable, which is supposedly the goal of this, ang hirap din kasi syempre lalaban yun. How do you even define things? And that's, I think, the world to figure out. It's an item for the world to figure out how to control social media. Or maybe we can ask China how they do it.
Oh, they did it by
Korea.
just taking
Diba?
control of everything and shutting down every single thing. Na may mga salita na if you put it in, you're automatically blocked and whatnot. Kaya nga may joke na kapag ka may mga nakakapikon kang kalarong Chinese,
Right.
just chat yung Tiananmen Square sa chat box and they would disconnect immediately.
Kaya 'di ba tawag dito, hindi siya necessarily censorship ng mga certain bagay, but it's basically a mask, like a rule, mass rule for everything, whether it's pro or against it just automatically applies it. So I think that will work if we follow that, but obviously it's not.
Do we want that? That's the question.
Gusto ba natin ng people power na naman kung anong eksena, 'di ba? But okay, sige, tignan natin. Papatapusin natin si Kuya.
How about those candidates who had tapped the services of influencers and who had already posted those videos, those interviews, those obviously
So,
campaign
retroactive
materials
application,
before the start of the campaign period? And
Oo,
then when
tapos
that
pwede
starts,
pa
that's when
magamit,
the
oo.
Comelec would start counting, right? But
Yes.
the videos that had been posted before that would still be on the platform.
I
True.
understand, but the way I
Good
understand
point.
it is if these ads or these materials trigger the AI of the platform, like for
Trigger
example
the
Google,
AI.
and it is flagged as a political ad, then it will still be taken down. So we
Are you
have to be on the
confused,
lookout for
sir?
that as well.
Okay, there's a question for you, Director James Jimenez,
What?
from one of our viewers. How about
What?
Are you confused how these things work? So parang hindi searchable si ad. So say for example TikTok video, they partner with Leni. So created prior campaign period. Syempre, an ongoing pa yung video na yan forever and ever.
Yeah.
What can Google do to censor TikTok contents? 'Di ba? Hindi mo pa take down yung video na yan.
Kasi,
Hindi mo siya masi-searchable, pwedeng hindi siya searchable sa Google, pero you don't
At
search
saka-
things in Google for TikTok, 'di ba?
ang ano pa, ito yung sinasabi niya, basically, they're saying na if something was produced prior, and then nag-crossover siya, so even if you follow all the rules that they mention,
Mm-mm.
your political ads would still be taken down. Kasi sabi niya, kung nag-cross yung na-produce ng video, na bayaran na and what na, nag-exist pa rin siya, which it will when the campaign period
Forever
starts.
and ever, yung kay Maros nga gumagano hanggang ngayon, nandiyan pa eh.
habang yung ano, pag nakita siya ng AI, iti-take down? What?
Hindi ko maintindihan ang sabi nito ni Kuya. Alam mo na talaga na yung policies ng gobyerno nanggagaling sa pantasya ng mga regulator.
Kasi ang artificial intelligence ang
Ay matalino.
magdedetermina kung alin ba ang mga political ads na dapat natanggalin sa platform. Lang yan.
Tsaka pagka teka ha, ito pa yung question dyan eh. If I Google Leni Robredo's name during the campaign period, will Google show me results of Leni, like yung regular Wikipedia page niya? Or anything?
Or will
it be censored that it will not appear?
Ang gulo niya, no? Parang, I think he
Sige.
does not understand what he's, at least
Oo.
he does not
Iba yung
understand
question sa
the
sagot eh, di ba?
implication. Yeah,
Oo,
so,
iba.
let's give him the benefit of the doubt. But,
Yung train of
naguluhan
thought
talaga
lang.
ako dun sa ano niya.
Oo.
Anyway,
sige.
let's have him continue.
about
Kaya
a
niyan.
person or a group of persons who on their own decide to support a candidate
Yan.
online on a particular site?
Yan.
Well, that's fine. How do you manifest your support? Again, if you show up pouring money into this campaign, then you would fall within the requirements to report these expenditures, right? If you're talking about a group of people who every day say, mabuhay si Christian, that might be a different story. But if you were to invest money in this campaign, then again, even if you're private individuals, it is possible that you will be part of the regulation. Again, as I said, candidates will have to accept these expenditures. You cannot spend money for the campaign just like that without having to get the consent of the candidate.
Okay. Again, we understand the difficulties as far as Comelec is concerned as to how to monitor these activities properly. Napakahirap, no? A few days ago, we had as a guest on this program a scholar who did a study on YouTube influence on election discourse, and pinag-usapan namin doon yung algorithmic communities.
Okay.
And certain candidates are actually taking advantage of that. Had been taking
Yes.
advantage of that for quite some time now, no? Yung Comelec, how aware are you as to how certain candidates are using, for instance, this algorithmic communities on YouTube, which based on that study has been very, very effective for certain candidates?
Well, we're very aware, except that Christian, to be honest with you, monitoring this sort of thing isn't really in the Comelec's wheelhouse. Comelec is not a marketing
Exactly.
agency, so we
Yeah.
don't study marketing trends. But we are trying to keep abreast of new developments in this particular field because it is necessary. Things would be different perhaps if there were a law that were to be enacted that would govern this sort of thing. But until there is that law, really we're just trying to do the best that we can.
Yeah, that's fair
How
naman, to be
many
fair.
people do you have
Yes.
That's
To be
fair.
fair.
Fair naman yung argument na they're
Aside-
just trying to do what they can. Talagang mahirap.
Kasi
Wag
they-
lang kasing akin lang, wag lang nilang gamitan ng sobrang daming resources to do this. Kumbaga, don't waste so much time when you admitted this is not their expertise.
Kasi that's a lot of these expenses could have been used better sa ibang parte that we know.
Ako,
could have
gamitin
a
nila
bigger-
yan to improve the polling areas. Make it
Mhm.
more accessible to PWDs or make it comfortable for voters. Alamin
Yes.
nila yung tawag dito, magplana sila, mag-strategize sila ng system. If anything, na mag-text kung anong oras ka pupunta. Parang vaccine kasi registered voter. And my understanding is when you're registered to a certain municipality, you're already pre-assigned precinct where you're going to go. So you're
Yes.
already expected na mag-show up ka doon. So you know how many people will be in the polling precincts at a certain time. Hindi mo naman nakokontrol kung anong oras pumupunta yung mga tao. So, i-text nyo sila. Ito yung window when you are scheduled. Anytime between here and here is the ideal schedule for you para hindi ka pumila ng isang 3 oras diyan sa Comelec at ma-avoid din yung crowd pagdating sa botohan because obviously we don't want a surge after the election. So, alam mo yun, doon ay nang gamitin din yung pondo, doon yung pag-isipan ng maigi yung mga bagay-bagay. Huwag po tayong mag-iisip ng mga kabagayan na ano. Okay lang yun, they're trying, but be smart about the resources, the expenditure, yun lang naman.
Ang mangyayari kasi is that the findings that they will get will only go to one specific election omnibus code violation, which is for campaign spending, which I support naman na dapat talaga nating monitor yun. But the way they're going about it is, I think, is too broad for their current capabilities. Alam mo, sa totoo lang, it would have been better if they were able to negotiate with Google to stop the ads during the campaign pause period. I don't know why they weren't able to do that with YouTube, with Facebook, with TikTok, with Twitter, na to stop any political push.
Yeah, they can
Which is-
mandate it kasi parang
Yeah.
entities yan government entity ka dapat meron kang power to stop it.
Yun na lang. I mean, you were able to do it with one, and it's not even the biggest one. Well, technically it is the biggest, but it's not the one
Pakitang
with the
lang
most.
yun pero the people don't go to some websites. Ang nangyayari ngayon, you originated from one social media platform, TikTok, YouTube, and then they route you to their website, not the other way
Yeah.
around. Hindi ka mag-google muna and then go to the website, diba? Parang hindi na nangyayari yun. It's very, very
Very
little traffic na ganun na yung sitwasyon.
Let's continue.
To this particular job of monitoring all these expenses on social media na lang, no? Huwag na natin isama yung television at saka radio, for instance,
Yeah.
at saka print.
If I'm being generous, I'd say 10 people.
10 people. So, parang yan din yung
10
number niyo in
people lang yung
2019, no?
Yeah, it's the same. The vagaries of government hiring. It's
Sabi
really
sa'yo, ako
hard
na magmamanage yan
to justify more
Sampu
people
lang,
and more people and more people.
Ako na yung mag-supervisor sa
It seems like
mag-supervisor. Ikaw yung
10
manager
people
natin.
now would be more effective considering that we have broader partnerships and deeper partnerships with the platforms themselves. So we're able to do more with the same number of people
Regardless,
than we
diba?
used to before, especially when we were just starting.
And
I
how
mean,
was the
if
experience in
the
2019 when
platforms
you started
provide you the
monitoring
reports,
these
It was
expenses?
difficult.
if the platform provides you the reports and all what the 10 people would do is dissect the
Analyze
report
the
and then
report,
present it, that's okay. Pero yung mano-mano, so
Yung sinasabi nila na tracking, that's something
Mm-mm.
that cannot be done with just 10 people.
oo. So kailangan nila ng analytics. A good starting point is actually sinabi ni Christian yung social media, yung nag-study nung trends and nag-analyze nun. Kasi regardless of how the candidates want to sabotage the other candidate, kung ginagamit nila yung algorithm, it is the result. Yun yung outcome Kumbaga yun yung output. So, they won't influence the material enough to sway the votes to the other side. Kumbaga, kung
Yes.
gusto nila mag-manipulate on another way, di ba? Pero, at saka, ako alam ko namang pag sinabing kumpanya, hindi lang yan to further yourself. A part of campaigning is ida-downgrade mo yung personality nung kabila. Do they count the expenses to, well, I'm not promoting Leni, for example, or I'm not promoting BBM, but all I'm doing is destroying the other candidate. Like, how can you peg
Yeah, how can you bucket that?
the impact of, say, sirain ko si Marcos? Isko, Pacquiao, Lacson, and Leni would all benefit from it. Kanino mo i-group yung expenses sa paninira ng kabilang kampo? Diba? How do you account for it? Unlike yung openly, nagpo-promote ng isang candidate, madali yun diba? Pero yung ganon, yung naninira ka lang, tapos wala ka namang sinusuport. Talaga nagugulo ka lang, diba? So, sino ba magbe-benefit doon? So, how do you even account for that? Yun yung isa pang challenge sa... So, I think outcome-based yung i-monitor nila. Kasi at the end of the day, when a campaign strategist or social media strategist does something, it's for an output. So, meaning, to change sentiment, to change emotion, to whatever. Kung ano ba yung naging output, sana ganun yung... I hope they're smart to do it na ganun, pero I don't think so. So, at least yung 10 tao na yun, may gagawin silang trabaho for the next few months nang walang accountability. Alam mo yun, nang walang may result sila or wala. Parang tanggap na hindi mo na magagawa yan yan
Sino
pala
yung
yun.
10 taong yan? Let us know how you got that gig.
Kasi diba, zero sum yan wala ka namang ito yung goal natin kailangan ganito, ganyan.
Kailangan makahanap ka ng 10 account na tumutulong sa kampanya. Di ba? Wala bang...
Diba? Parang
hindi natin alam yung metrics nila. Baka may mga ganun pala sila.
Lead generation pala yung dating. Anyway, kaya nila yan. Magagaling yung mga yan Gobyerno yan Magtiwala tayo sa gobyerno. Sige, play mo.
It was very difficult. Of course, there were times when we didn't know what to do with the information that we were getting. There were times when we would have to ask for guidance from people who were in the field who had no appreciation of what we were trying to do. But again, things have changed. As people have begun to realize exactly the battlefield nature of social media, then there have been more offers to help, and we're very grateful for that.
Was there also
First
reasonable reporting on the part of
Naawa talaga ako
candidates
dito
and their
kay
sourcing at the end of the 2019 midterm elections to include social media expenses?
Hirap na
Yes, actually, the candidates have also been very...
mag-volunteer
credit where credit is due. A lot of candidates have been very forthright in their reporting, and they've been very cooperative as well. Even at the time when, if you remember, when the regulations came out, there were some few who were saying, they're going to challenge, that it was beyond the authority of the Comelec, etc. But no one ever did. Rather than
realize kasi nila na wala namang kayong magagawa.
Very helpful. They were helping in the compliance and in the monitoring. So again, it's improving. Despite the lack of regulation, but still, I cannot get tired of saying that we need laws to govern this thing.
Okay. You said you would need laws to govern these things. So what exactly would you like to have?
Well,
to basically institutionalize this.
Well, the most important thing really is to establish frequency limits for the use of social media. As I have never tired of pointing out, for print, you can only print 3 times a week. For TV, radio, you have a limited number of minutes per station. No such regulation applies to social media. Perhaps it is time to have that sort of regulation applied to social media. Second, we would like to see more formal requirements for the use of influencers and troll farms. Maybe we don't call them troll farms, but the concept should be defined in law and therefore regulated by law. It's hard because what's happening now is that everything is being left for the Comelec to basically discover.
To be fair,
when you're the first through the wall, you're the one ending up with a bloody face. So that's what's happening with us.
You're forced to fight the fight with the
very good to si Kuya.
With insufficient
at least.
Touch naman siya ng reality.
Against a very flexible and innovative protagonist. Yes, definitely.
Okay. By the way, you also the Comelec also came out with a list para schedule of e-campaigning.
Yeah.
E-rally. Okay.
E-rallies.
So this will start when? Next month, right?
It'll start February 8th for the national candidates, yes. And we came out with the verified page already. So we're going to ask for everyone's help to start following that page.
90 days
We
nga
want
before.
to get a good number of
60
followers
days
on that
ang
page to ensure
ang local.
that people are able to watch the e-rallies of their candidates. This will help convince the candidates to minimize in-person campaigning. If you don't
Nag-schedule
have
sila
Facebook,
ng
that's fine.
per
We're gonna
candidate.
cross-post it on
Ako,
verified.
may re-reviewin tayo.
May
Nilalagay
Kasi
tayo.
presidential candidates 10 minutes each. 3 slots a night, no? But
That's right.
how will you allocate those slots? Paano kayo pipili?
Raffle yan. Raffle. We're gonna raffle the slots away, and then just repeat the whole slate, all 9, 10, 11 of them, all the way to the end of the campaign period. So it'll just keep repeating. We'll just make sure that everyone gets the same number of slots over the campaign period.
Are there particular don'ts that you would have to remind candidates and their campaign
Don't
people?
send nudes.
Well, we're gonna come out with a list of fair use guidelines, of course. But in general, really, we just want them to avoid using harmful or hateful language. But other than that, it is a campaign channel, basically covering their campaign rallies. So whatever they say at their campaign rallies, they should perhaps be free to say on our platform as well. Again, with limitations as to hate speech and speech that calls for the harming of any individual.
But negative campaigning is allowed. Let's say,
Negative
vote for my
campaigning-
opponent.
Absolutely. I think that might actually be a source of much entertainment in the coming days.
Okay, finally, before I let you go, Director James,
Galing.
yung
Tama
issue
din
ng
siya, oh.
Comelec hacking. You issued a statement already about that. Pero is
Alam mo,
that
ang
was
kailangan lang
issues
gawin-
as far as Comelec is concerned?
Kailangan lang gawin ni BBM tsaka ni Sara kumain ng lugaw habang import na 10 minutes period.
10 minutes kumain na ng lugaw.
Diba? Nagkukwentuhan sila habang kumakain ng lugaw. Parang mabablog lang sila. It's gonna be one of the biggest stunts ever. Tapos, wala na silang gagawin. Parang casual lang na na kakain sila. Diba?
Ano, maghahanap lang sila ng mga...
Tapos galit na naman yung kabilang farm. Wala ka naman sasabihin. Kakain lang talaga sila.
wala ka na sabihin, kakain ka ng lugaw.
Diba?
Alam mo, to be fair with Jimenez, he does understand the limitations of his department. And I understand that. We've mentioned it before. Now we really need campaign reforms in a lot of things. Especially kasi yung way that our campaign guidelines, campaign laws have been produced is really having just the old type of campaign in mind. So wala talaga siyang pangil pagdating sa mga bagong klase ng pangangampanya. So that's one thing. I mean, there's a lot of things that I would like to to change. We've already mentioned yung yung kailan ba dapat tayo mag-start magbilangan ng kung magkano nagagastos ng mga kandidato. Ako honestly, I'm not sure if it's true, but I saw a post that in Japan daw during campaign period, sa isang lugar lang, sa isang, kunyari, if it's in one barangay, there's only one designated spot wherein you can put campaign posters, and every single candidate would have the same size. Nasa parang isang malaking billboard lang siya, and yung slots doon is being raffled. Kasi ang akin kasi napakalaking waste nung mga posters, ng mga tarpaulin. Alam mo yon na parang every after campaign season ang highlight ng mga kabuhayan channel kung paano nire-repurpose tong mga ginagawang bayong, ginagawang pang sa tricycle, but we shouldn't be doing that in the first place. It's waste, and yun nga, sa environment natin dapat we need to be more conscious about it. It's one of the biggest
online na, for God's sake, the question of the limits also. I don't know
drawingan lang naman yung mga
I don't know if it's even doable to do limits, or does it even make sense? Before kasi, kasi okay, I get it a little bit. Kasi kung ang purpose ng limit is to have equal footing, kasi bawa kung unlimited yan, mas marami akong pera, mas marami akong pamphlet,
Yeah, mananalo
ganun.
ka talaga.
Kaya ginawa nilang may limit. Okay, so I get it. So, kailangan lang talagang ma-revolutionize yung mga rules natin to reflect kung ano yung realities. 'Di ba, in the ground. Kagaya nung yung tag dito, pag ano mo na yung mga campaign posters is environment friendly, yung tipong gawin mong biodegradable or whatever, 'di ba? yung
Diba?
yung mga tarp, sabihin mo wag naman masyadong i-photoshop yung mukha, baka hindi sila makilala ng mga ng mga botante, 'di ba? Nakakalokohan lang na rules.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do na mas mapapaganda yung election. So yun nga, even simple things na pagbabawal na nung kasi yung mga poster, that's a very old style of thinking of campaigning.
Gusto ko tong
And-
yung may online ano sila na platform kasi officially
yes,
hosted by the Comelec. In fact, dapat mag-host sila ng mga FAQ hosted by Comelec, 'di ba? Or the debates by the Comelec themselves.
debates, I know there will be. I forgot, I think it was also an ANC report. I forgot who they were interviewing, but they mentioned that there would be several debates na face to face yung mga candidates. They would be there, they would be able to answer
Pero
against each
virtual
other.
audience.
Yes, but virtual audience. So wala na ng audience impact na ano na natin yan, 'di ba?
Mm.
We've seen that in the past campaigns we're in na pagpasok pa lang, yun na yung sinusukat, tinitingnan kung gaano kalakas yung sigawan ng mga tao. At least by doing it in such a way, there is a chance na we would be, kasi they're not playing up
Nakikinig
to an
dapat,
audience
oo.
anymore. Kasi they're not playing up to an audience anymore, and that means na there is a chance na mas maganda yung magiging discourse, na kailangan nila pag-isipan talaga yung sasabihin nila, kasi hindi na sila pwede magsabi na tutulungan ko ang Pilipinas, kasi before the audience impact will save you regardless of how stupid
What you say, diba?
whatever say, di ba? But now that's not going to save you. You need to be smarter about it, and that's very interesting to see. I would like to see the vice presidential debate is actually what I wanted to see. Yung presidential debate, I think I already know how it will go. They're probably going to gang up on Bongbong Marcos again, and if they don't regulate the questions, just like what we mentioned before, dapat ang mga tanong talaga is focusing on the issues that matter, hindi yung pagpunta mo doon, anong gagawin.
Sana mag-stand out si Lacson doon, no?
Yes, I really hope so, kasi based on our analysis of the economic plans, his economic plan is the one that makes most sense, and his was the most fiscally responsible one, I would say.
Tsaka parang doable naman.
Yeah, everything he mentioned there is almost all doable. Meron lang mga ilang points na medyo hindi niya na-explain. But
my only
considering na
thing
may
with him
time
is
limits,
parang
that
medyo
is fine.
underwhelming yung plano niya. Kumbaga,
Yes,
to a point
kasi
na parang it doesn't excite you. Pero realistically, yun lang pwedeng gawin. I think sa debate, ang magdadala, ang mangingibabaw dyan si Isko. Kasi the way he talks.
yes.
Si Pacquiao, manapak yun kapag hindi yung pinakinggan eh. Pero hindi, ewan ko.
Pacquiao's plan
Siyempre
was
magpapastikan
the
yun eh.
the hardest to listen to. But anyway, yeah, I think that Isko Moreno has a good advantage. Bongbong Marcos not so much. I don't think he will be able to
Sa pure salitaan lang, I think it's Isko, Bongbong, and Lacson the same level.
same level.
Oo. Si Madam si Madam ko walang script,
Pag hindi kasi
Med.
scripted si
Oo.
Leni,
paulit-ulit eh. May ano niya eh, parang mannerism niya yun eh. I just call it as a mannerism as opposed to parang yun yung way niya while she's constructing her statements.
may
Pinapaulit-ulit
mga
niya.
fillers siya.
Oo,
Yeah.
fillers. So, and we know that. I mean, for people in the BPO industry, we know that
We know
it's
that
just
that happens.
it's just a habit. Hindi yan necessarily a reflection ng intelligence.
ng
I mean, it's
intellect.
funny that people call it out that way, but it's not a reflection of intelligence. To be fair, kay Madam, 'di ba? It's
Yes.
a manner of speaking. It's a behavioral thing. Hindi yan
I mean,
automatic.
even us, we stutter, we
Oo.
sometimes circle back. So it's not really minus points for her, but syempre when it comes to public speaking, to debates, that would matter. Usually nangyayari nga kung sino yung pinakamagaling magsalita, siya talaga ang nananalo regardless of what's happening. Kasi
Nakakatawa
mayroon
lang.
siyang
I mean, yung
kalabayan,
kay Leni nakakatawa lang. Pero I don't automatically equate it to that. Kasi yun nga lang yung ano niya. Pero I think this one is a good video, right? I mean, to be fair to the Comelec chair, I know what he's facing. To be fair,
it's a
he
daunting
recognizes
task, yeah.
the task, and also at least he's doing something. Like I said at the beginning, I think I'm just reading it as they're trying to do it, then not doing anything. So kumbaga at the end of the day, ayan lang yung
Yun
ano
yung
nila. So
magawa nila talaga.
so I respect that. Although everything we said earlier, puro ano yun tag dito, highlighting the challenges to make it realistic. So ngayon, pagdating sa enforcement, knowing how big and difficult these rules that they have set, I think it's on us to police it in our own standard also.
Yes.
Babalik tayo dun sa what's crossing the line and what's not crossing the line. And that line is dependent on the individual, right? Yours is different, mine is different, the listeners are different. Doesn't mean na ganito, ganyan, walang set standard. The idea lang is to really fully examine everything that these people are doing. May mga favorites, tanggapin natin or hindi, medyo malakis talaga ang chance na manalo ni Bongbong Marcos at this point,
Yes.
knowing the surveys. The sooner you realize that, the earlier you can adjust kung ano man yung gusto nyong gawin, like party nila Leni, 'di ba? Or party nila Isko. Dapat don't deny that fact na sobrang panalo yung campaign strategy. That ang simple
Kasi-
lang they're skipping traditional media. They go to grassroots social media. That's all they do now, and he's the one benefiting the most out of it. Kumbaga nalay na yung foundation months before. Ang hirap i-overcome niyan, and to think na hindi siya ganun kalaking gumastos. So I don't even know what play they have. I mean, should they just do what they did last time na they know they can't win the presidential race, so they go heavy on Kiko and then have him win and as an opposition?
I
But
don't think
I don't know how
think
you
that's
can go
possible
against
in this
Sara
case.
parang
Kasi at least last time, Leni has an immense pool of support. I know people, hindi na lang ako magdadrop ng
May-
names, that
teka.
supports Leni but does not support
Oo.
Kiko.
oo. May prediction pala ako, but I'll say it offline na lang kasi medyo traditional. Ay, tawag dito, medyo sobrang controversial nung prediction ko, that what I'm about to say. But at the end of the day, I think wala. So far, kahit na anong gawin ni he's skipping the economic forums, he's skipping Comelec, he's skipping social. Hindi pa nagpapa-interview si
skipped a lot of
Bongbong ng
things.
traditional media, hindi pa na-interview ni Karen Davila after announcement, di ba? Wala pa siyang ganun.
All of the things that he
Puro vlog
releases are on his vlogs. And
Vlog na controlled, na alam mo yun,
We-
edited.
we just for the benefit of the listeners, we tried to get content from Bongbong's blog to fix that, basically Frankenstein it to build his economic platform, and we can't kasi
Wala,
a lot
pero
of these
landian sila ni
sponsors
Sara
spread out. It's spread out to sobrang daming videos. Merong isang video, may abanggitin siya isang point, he would not really expound on it and talk about a different thing, and then ang kadukso nun nasa video, 7 videos pass, and it's really hard. So that's the reason why we don't have an economic platform review of Bongbong Marcos. I hope that he releases something soon. I know na, di ba, ang tagal niya na minention na meron siyang 12-point plan ba yun?
Si Pacquiao yun, si Pacquiao yung may 12 points.
Kasi,
Pero meron din siyang plan.
May
Oo, okay.
sinabi din siya, but we haven't really seen
Debate.
it. So, ang promise lang namin sa inyo sa aming mga listeners and now watchers is that we will be examining that as soon as that comes out. And for
Okay.
this one, I think ang remaining na lang naman dito sa video is about the recent hack of Comelec, but that's detracting to sa topic natin for today, which is just focused on the campaign and the rules. And para sa akin, I just
Yeah.
want everyone to do their own research. Make sure na wag tayo magpapadala sa sensationalism. Make sure that you are checking both sides, all sides actually. And if you-
PYOR. At wag ma-FOMO.
Yes.
Puro tayo
if-
FOMO dito.
If you still haven't, we have an entire library examining the economic platforms of almost all of the presidential candidates. We have Leni
Including
Robredo.
Bongo.
Yes, kasama si Bongo right before, the day before he canceled his
Retracted,
candidacy. Isko Moreno, Ping Lacson. We have that on our Spotify. Now this is going to be up on YouTube. So
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for all. Again, it's been a long break, but we're back and we'll continue on.
We're back.
Thank you all for listening. Bye.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye.